Welcome back, folks. This is your lecture on advertising. Advertising. It's the one pop culture vehicle that we all come in contact with every day, whether we like it or not. From outdoor billboards or signs, to social media campaigns, to point of purchase displays, to television commercials, and a whole lot more. Now, an advertisement or an ad is it's defined as a specific message constructed to inform, persuade, promote, provoke, or motivate people on behalf of a brand or a group. It also serves to differentiate the brands, the groups, or the causes, no matter where the ad is placed. Now, an advertising campaign is a series of coordinated ads based on an overarching plan or action. It's connected by a strategy, a look, a feel, a voice, a tone, a style of imagery, or a tagline. And each individual ad in the campaign can stand on its own or work as a group. I snuck these in there just to remind you that advertising is not just limited to print, although that's what I've been showing you in the samples, the examples. It's also on television. Now, in the past, television commercials and print ads were the main carriers of ad messaging. Now, television or print ads are often used to drive people online, and they interact with the brand or the group online, period. Made it sound like there was more there, but there's not. So what I want to talk about is what you as a graphic designer would do in the advertising world. If you're working for, let's say, an ad agency, you'd be called an art director, and you're responsible for the overall look and feel, visual style, selection of photographer or photography or illustrator, and the design of the advertisement. Now, advertising is collaborative. So in a traditional agency, a conventional creative team is usually a duo composed of an art director and a copywriter. And you work together on a strategic conceptual development and generate ideas. So often, depends on how the relationship works, but sometimes the copywriter will come up with the big idea, and then the art director is responsible for making it look cool, bringing it to life. The way I've worked for years is we didn't have a copywriter for a lot of years, so I usually generated the ideas and created the big look, and then we had a copywriter who would come later and kind of write the body copy and all the nuts and bolts, but I pretty much came up with the concept. So anyhow, this is a little chain of command here. So an art director and copywriter are a team and usually work with a creative director. That's their boss. And that person will then usually report to a senior account manager or the owner, and that person reports to the client. The client communicates what they like or don't like back to the senior account manager or owner, who then communicates back to the creative director. So I'm actually missing an arrow there. There should be an arrow going from the senior account manager back to the creative director. So that's the chain of command, just to show you how things work in an agency. So you've heard of a creative brief. This might be a little bit redundant because I know it's already in, you've already worked on it, but let me just see if there's anything in here that, no, I think pretty much this is stuff that we've already covered. So I should just move on. Let me just go back, get rid of that. This is more like a small aside, but there are subcategories of ads, and the majority that you've dealt with are consumer ads, which are directed at the general public. There's also business-to-business ads, which are aimed from one company to another, and also trade ads, which are directed at a specific profession or a group of people, just FYI. So, okay, the idea. We've already talked about the creative brief from the other lectures. So the big idea, or the idea is the creative concept. It's the solution to an advertising problem, which is a strategic formulated thought and communicates. It is a So what the art director and copywriter want to do is come up with the idea. As you see the definition there, a creative conceptual solution to an advertising problem. Most, whether it's design or advertising, you're usually visually solving a problem. So basically, the problem is the client comes to you and says, "I want my, I want to sell more widgets," and you have to come up with a way to make that happen. So that's the solution. You're finding the solution. So together, this team is working, and with other people in the agency as well, to formulate a strategic approach and a way to communicate the message or call to action that the client wants to happen. So here's an example, quick example. Toshiba, for example, I said example 25 times there, didn't I? They had the DVDs and were competing with Sony Blu-ray. And okay, here's an example of a big idea. So the challenge for this client was Toshiba, HD, DVD. They're competing with Sony Blu-ray for the right to be the high-definition DVD player of choice among consumers. Okay, that was the challenge that the creative team was met with. The solution they came up with was to capture the feeling of being totally immersed in a movie, focusing on the shared experience of watching movies at home when the movie is, quote, so real you can feel it. So real you can feel it became the I don't know if they use it as a tagline or not. We'll see in a second. But that was the main concept. So this is what they came up with, which cracks me up. And there's two more. This is a series. So, and the result was Toshiba wound up selling out its entire inventory, even though Sony outspent them by 10 to 1. So it was a tremendous success. Oh, God, it's so good. Anyhow, what that gets at is an emotional benefit. And we've talked about this before, about functional benefits and emotional benefits. It uses humor. I don't mean emotional in a dramatic way. I mean an emotional benefit is a way to connect people to a brand on an emotional level. And that can be done with humor, it can be done with pathos, it can be done with any number of ways. As opposed to a functional benefit, which is basically what the product does. A functional benefit is the useful characteristics of a product or service that aid in distinguishing it from a brand or group from the competition. So, like if the hard drive, the DVD player had a super duper fast forward or some such thing like that, that would be a functional benefit. But we're talking about an emotional benefit, which is what advertising does. Here is an ad by Nike, and let's see if this is going to work.
Let's go.
What's your dream? To win championships? A scholarship? Do you want to be a bigger athlete than Serena Williams? Or do you want to be the first girl to play for the Yankees? Can you be the generation that ends gender inequality? Or will you show that champions in your sport can also look like you? Maybe your dream is to be the first 13-year-old to go pro.
All right, y'all.
Or to push a sport to accept everyone just as they are. But the craziest dream of all is the one that starts a million more.
Okay. Advertisers generally connect with their audience through storytelling. They communicate the emotional benefits of their brand or their product through carefully constructed stories that appeal to us. They connect the use of their product to a greater narrative, something that's beyond just the nuts and bolts of, say, in Nike's case, wearing sneakers or wearing the perfect workout gear. It connects to something much greater than that. and thus elevates the brand. It actually becomes a motivational call of sorts, a call to action. And they use this campaign across all manner of media, print and TV, online. So whether digital, print, or video, advertising storytelling has a cumulative effect when it's consistently used and reinforced across a media campaign. And here's a campaign that Dove Soap did that was used in all different media. It was connected to the greater idea of positive body image for all of us, but mostly for women. And so it really created this connection. It kind of shows that the brand cares. It seems a little less selfish. I'm not sure that's the right word, but a little more self-serving, I guess, that they're just trying to sell you their product, that they're actually trying to do something more than that. Keep in mind that each medium has different capabilities that give it greater power to tell certain stories. Basically, certain stories are going to work better on different media. And these days, people are so in tune with video and online culture that it's usually something that moves these days, as opposed to a print ad, since less and less magazines are being printed. So usually people want something to move. They want something shiny to get their attention. Okay, so now I'm going to move into a few different approaches to ad concept generation. And part of all this, why I'm doing this, and this is the last or second to last lecture, is my goal in your current branding project is for you to create an ad for your rebrand. I'm hoping that's going to happen. If anything gets ditched, it's going to be that, but I'm hoping for the best. So I probably should have said that earlier to try to make this more relevant to you, but that's why we're doing this. So these are a few approaches that can be taken to create an ad. Now, the first one is what we would call visual analogy or visual metaphor. A visual analogy is a comparison based on some likeness or similarity. We assume that if two things are alike in one respect, then they will be alike in all respects. So here, because the cigarettes are roughly the shape that a bullet can be to fit into the chamber of the gun, we see that connection. We see the visual connection, but then we also then read into it the other connection, which is that cigarettes can kill the same way that bullets do, which is a pretty powerful message. And this is used a lot. The more I've been teaching this and looking for examples, we use metaphor a lot. Here is another visual metaphor. A rhinoceros, which could be used for many things. For example, maybe to represent dry skin, to sell face lotion, or in this case, to represent armored strength. So it's drawing comparisons between this automobile product and the animal itself. Also can suggest not just the armored strength, but also the power that's inside one of these cars. And if you read the ad copy there, it actually points to its instinct is the main thing. It's kind of what it says on the surface anyway. I think there's a lot more than just instinct going on in this ad. To me, it's more about strength and power. Here they create an analogy between Heinz ketchup and an actual tomato to promote the product's freshness. Another approach to concept generation is through use of symbolism. Here IBM is trying to draw attention to the lack of women in a lot of the STEM areas. So they create programs designed to strengthen women's skills in these areas. So they're using the symbolism of blue and pink to represent male and female, to symbolize gender here. That's what the program is. It's a pretty old program. This is an older ad. Another concept generation vehicle are icons. We have, the Michelin Man or the Jolly Green Giant or McGruff the Crime Dog, and here, Allstate's Mr. Mayhem. Often use these characters, icons, in a very appealing way, usually humorously. Another approach to concept generation is through life experience, often done humorously as well. People can relate to what is being said in the ad. So you have this sort of like, yeah, that happens to me reaction to it. These ads can behave as observational humorists in that they point out the comedy in everyday occurrences. Compare and contrast is another approach, comparing the sensation of eating a York peppermint patty to skiing in a crisp mountain air or standing under a refreshing waterfall. Oh, I didn't realize that moved. La-di-da, look at me. All right, moving on. Oh, I couldn't resist. Another approach is exaggeration. This brand is so good that these heels are so high that our vacuum cleaner is so powerful that this anti-wrinkle cream is so powerful it will make you look like the woman on the left and not the one on the right. IKEA is so easy that a child can make them, which we all know is a big fat lie. But anyhow, irony is another approach. Since the early 60s, that's where this ad is from. Ad professionals have found value in a self-conscious wink at the audience with no pretense at a hard sell. They're not saying, buy this, it's awesome, the interior is like this, and the tires are, shiny and new. This Think Small ad makes use of irony. So the underlying approach is, we know we're trying to sell you something. Obviously, duh, it's an ad. So let's just enjoy this transaction together. Kind of is a way to signal to the audience a certain level of confidence. They don't have to push the functional benefits all the time. They're using humor to go for the emotional benefit. You're buying something from someone who actually has a sense of humor and whom you sort of like. Endorsements are another approach. They can be by famous celebrities or by testimonials by everyday people. Okay, so what makes up an ad? The elements of an ad are thus. Most print ads consist of the following components: an image, a headline, some body copy, a tagline, and a sign-off. Now, not everybody has a tagline. Actually, I think for Subaru here, it's put at the end of the body copy, which is the copy in the gray box. I love it's what makes a Subaru, and that is what's used from campaign to campaign. So often what's down in that bottom area there, it's what's used either from campaign to campaign or just from within a campaign. It's kind of the operational information. It's the nuts and bolts, the stuff you need to have on there if anyone actually wants to buy the Subaru, the website, price, phone number, address, all that sort of thing. So ideally, the majority of your ad space gets to be your headline and your image so that you can make an impact, so you can say something cool. That's how I think of it anyway. Together, an image and copy create an ad for the most part. It's a symbiotic relationship. They both need each other. In this case, I think I'm showing you, I think that's how this works. Yeah, I'm showing you just the image. So you look at the image and you go, oh, okay, it's a bunch of policemen hiding behind a car. Okay, it doesn't really mean anything until you put it with the text and you get this. You go, oh, okay. So they work cooperatively. The visual and verbal components produce a greater effect than either one of them can produce on their own. Now there's different kinds of ads. Copy-driven and image-driven are two kinds. These are copy-driven. I'm not going to give you enough time to read these. Maybe you can pause if you really want to read them. They're pretty clever. But these are copy-driven. But most things are going to be image-driven, where the communication is mainly determined by an image. But it's surprising how much of a story you can get out of a single image. Story. I don't think I said that strongly enough. How much of a story you can get from a single image. All right, the do's of creating a good ad. The design should grab someone's attention. Communicate a clear message. Create visual and verbal synergy. The two elements, the main elements, should work together. Highlight a functional or emotional benefit. Write in plain conversational language. This third to last one is more just a technical thing, breaking your copy into logical places. Line breaks should echo how we speak. So you don't want to like break up the name of your product on two different lines. Also, respect your audience and reflect diversity, which is something we do more and more and need to do more of. Don'ts. Don't use the logo as a headline. It's not a headline. Image and headline should not repeat one another. Don't employ negative stereotypes. Avoid cliched visuals and copy. If you're working for a law firm, do not put a column or a judge's gavel. Avoid copy that sounds like a sales pitch. People don't want to be spoken down to or are given a hard sell. Because we often learn by example, here's a few examples of great ads which highlight a few different ways of thinking. This one highlights what we call visual surprise. So it creates an image that will make the viewer do a double take, or it will distort an image. Here they have to look twice. Not much to it other than that. There's that, and there's the website. Websites have been wonderful, I think, as a designer, because basically if you have just your website, people go to your website and they can get your address and get all the operative information. You don't have to put your address and your phone number, your fax number, and all this stuff. This one has a phone number and a website, but often you can get away with just the website. Merging two things to make something new, another approach. Absurdity. I mean, these clothes are so natural that the people who wear them are just hugging trees all the time. Humor. It's a great way to connect with people emotionally. It's entertaining. I think these are really funny. All right, and this is going to lead into project 4, part 4, which will be described in great detail in Canvas. And I'm actually not going to go into this right now. I'm going to hold off on this, but that's what this all has been leading to. You can pause this and read through that if you want, but it's also in Canvas. And we end with a 2-page spread because your ad will be a 2-page spread or an 11 by 17. And what I mean 2-page spread is when you have a magazine, you open it to the center and there's, well, it doesn't have to be the center. Just open up a magazine and it's the 2 pages and the ad goes all the way across. That's all. Okay, that's all for now. Thanks for listening. Go do your quiz.